And he began to minister deliverance, and it was very awkward because some girls were possessed by demons of lust. And he, not being wise also, he went in between the girl and akemea pepo na meka mkono zile sehemu za hatari. And as the preacher was doing this, the school principal was coming from the bar. 11:30 towards midnight, bado mtumishi anaombea anatoa mashetani. Patron na yuko. So the principal hears some noise of screamings, comes to the window and asks, "What is going on here? What the hell are you doing here?" And the preacher responds, "I'm a man of God, we have a serious kingdom business. You with girls only here?" So it was so bad. The CU was nearly banned. So I want us to, just as a brother among us, we discuss these issues because they are making the CUs not to be respected in our schools, and that should not be the case. So one of the problems we have found is that some of us patrons, we are using guest speakers merely as relievers, the way we see it in security firms, okay? And that is dangerous because, like my brother Moses was trying to point out, it is good you listen to the doctrine being taught by whoever guest speaker you are inviting into your school. Otherwise, we risk plunging our young boys and girls into very, very serious crisis in doctrine and other areas. And I made it a policy after the suffering I had with several patrons. I made it a policy. I will never go to preach in a CU where the patron is not there. In fact, if I discover you are leaving the school, I would rather turn back in the vehicle and go back to my church. Because there are cases where you may be accused of things you never said. But because the host was not there, you cannot make a defense over what might have been misinterpreted concerning what you spoke. So one of the problems you patrons, mistakes you're committing, is there is this reliever game going on. And again, you do it in a very casual manner. It's like you had planned an event. Whoever was supposed to come has called and said, "Sitaweza." So you call a fellow patron. You know, you laugh. That's what you do in your schools. And so you send in somebody who has been seconded by a friend you trust. But I want us to be careful in this. You know, every CU that we run has got its own unique challenges and therefore its own unique needs. And sometimes we invite speakers in our CUs not based on what they can deliver, but mostly based on the fame we have heard about them. It is the danger. I'm glad I've grown up under a great ministry here. And I used to query why my Bishop Lai does not invite a powerful preacher I used to hear in 93 at Baxter. Then I realized how this Bishop Lai operates is, he doesn't just call you because you are famous. He also looks at your current spiritual form. Are you still relevant to the body of Christ? So no matter how popular some people are, you may wonder why they never find their way preaching here. Because Bishop Lai does not go with the names. The who is who. He looks at the grace of God that works in you. He looks at your walk with God. And if those two things are met, even those who are nobodies can find themselves preaching here. So sometimes we invite people based on their names. And I will mention this. I went to a school, Maryhill, and a young girl was crying to me. Because most of the CU members, she being an official, they pushed her and say, "Tunataka msanii fulani, a famous gospel artist who has earned so much money with Safaricom. Jina lake nitalihifadhi." And so I go to the school, I do guidance and counseling. When I finish, this young girl calls to see me and she's crying. Form 3 says, "Pastor, pray for me. I'm so annoyed." I asked, "What's the problem?" He said, "Unamjua msanii so and so?" Nikamwambia namjua sana. Ambaye alifanya collab na Plan Safaricom, yes. Popular pia namjua sana. Imagine this. disappoint. Imagine alinichumbia na akasema ataningojea alafu atanioa nikimaliza. Alafu imagine pasi juzi imagine tulikuwa na weekend challenge alafu hakuja. Akatuma beste wake hapa chuo. Alafu beste akaniambia dada Mary, nataka nikuambie lakini shika roho yako Mungu akusaidie. Then akasema huyu artist ambaye amemchumbia maana akasema is a homosexual. But when he stands in the school, the whole crowd is mad. Muhadhara wote wanahadharika kweli. Lakini kuna shida. Am I communicating? So, our first mistake that I've observed in many schools is sometimes we invite people merely because they are like relievers to us because we've been tired teaching and the speakers failed us and I want a break to go home, do some shopping. So whenever I call this brother anishikilia, gusta fuliwa. Shopping itafanya. If you make that mistake, may God forgive you. Please never invite people in your CU just to be a reliever. We are having a very serious kingdom business that must be transacted, and God is watching how you manage the Christian union. Recall in the book of Luke 12 verse 42, Bible says, who then is the faithful and the wise steward whom the master shall give charge over his household to give them their portion of meat in due season? Bible says, blessed is that servant whom when his master cometh, he shall find him so doing. You are supposed to be that effective steward. Do your work with passion. Don't call people so that they can relieve you. No. Call them because it is timely in God's calendar. God wants them to fulfill a particular ministry in the lives of the boys and girls entrusted to your hands. The second problem I've seen, which affects us patrons, is a very serious aspect of poor communication. I must thank God for JCC because this invitation they gave me more than 3 months ago. Yesterday I was getting an invitation from Tet University and they have booked me to go and speak on 3rd of December. Proper communication, giving you time to pray and prepare. I have encountered so many incidents where a patron calls me and ananiambia, pastor, sijui ni kuambiaje, ni vile nilipitiliwa, lakini by the way, ulikuwa uongee leo kwa ibada yetu usiku kwa CU. Na ni saa 7 mchana. Sijui kama utakuja mchungaji. Hata usinibwage pastor. I'm never done that mistake. When I communicate that language so casually, so poorly, now one come an issue. I think Moses sent you letters kitambo, sio? Kama mlikuwa bado last week, on Monday maybe last week. How many of you got letters on last week on Friday maybe or Monday or this week last week? Hakuna. I believe you are a notice of a month or so, isn't it? Are we together? So you need to understand that in leadership, one of the powerful aspects of a good leader is being an excellent communicator. Communication must be done. We are handling serious kingdom business of lives of young boys and young girls entrusted under our care. And we are preparing them for their destiny. And you don't communicate adequately. Remember, it's not just an issue of coming. So I want to handle that in 2 aspects, communication. There is the bit of you communicating, informing the speaker. And I know sometimes in your own schools, you also invite a fellow patron and give them a chance to come and preach. Ni kweli nimefanya hivyo. Wewe patron wa Star of the Sea, umeleka patron wa Coast Guards, patron wa Changamwe Sek, ameleka wa Jomvu Sek, waliko ni secondary, ameleka labda patron wa Chuda Day. These things happen. Miss High School, amelekwa na pengine Burhan. All these things happen. But the other aspect that is funny is, wewe, you are invited to come and speak. People are fasting and praying for you. Seriously. Okay? They are fasting. Lord, bless your son that day. Lay your word upon his heart, oh God. give him timely word, revelation of word. Yani wanakuombea kabisa upako kila kitu. Then on that day imefika wewe huendi na upigi simu. Because Chelsea timu yako ina match. Battle of the Titans. Now football is destroying a lot of kingdom people. Wangapi wanapenda mpira hapa? Sijakosea ile point nasema. Bahati mbaya umealikuwa Coast Girls. Session ni saa 10 kasorobo. Chelsea nayo pia time zake ni hizo. Na umenyamaza. And the Coast Girls huko wanaomba, they are busy rebuking spirits. Spirits of delay, we bind you in the name. Kumbe hata hakuna delay. Jamaa na chekiboli fresh. Am I saying some truth? Yes. Do you know how much it hurts? If you know you will not be in a meeting, remember, somebody somewhere has been fasting and praying for you. Alafu una tabia mbaya, wendi na upigi simu. Ukipiga pole ni vile kwa lakini nikasahau. But anyway, ndugu imekuwa hivyo, poleni tu. You know Mungu atawasaidia. You're so casual. Are you seeing how we make the kingdom fail? You know, for me not to honor an invitation, it can keep me guilty a whole day. Let me give you a true story of what happened to me. A family in Voi called me. Wakaniambia mtu wa Mungu. Tuomba maombi hata kwa simu tu. Tuombe kuna fulani hapa ni mgonjwa mtu wa Mungu. Na nikapigiwa simu nikashika. I had a piece of paper and a pen. Nikanota. Ajua nani mgonjwa? Okay, sawa. Barikiwa nitamuombea. Sikuomba. Serious mistake. 3 days later, I recalled, I was to pray for this person. Let me make a call. Nijue naendeleaje. So nikapiga, habari zenu, muendeleaje? Habari ya mgonjwa, ako mochari. Nilikata simu. Ako wapi? Okay, hata kama utasema alikuwa ni wakufa, Alisa nikufa na kuambia. Am I communicating? So how many times have you let the kingdom down in your area of jurisdiction, either by communicating very late, an invitation, or literally failing to go and not communicating? So inabidi pato nake naye hapo amejipanga na amekualika, inabidi aike nyimbo tu za kubangaiza wakati. Maana kujipanga. These are mistakes patrons make. And so I want us to come out of this setup and agree on this, that as a patron, I will never again make this mistake of inviting people merely as relievers. That is not a kingdom working order. And number 2, let us go back as patrons and rectify the aspect of communication. Some of us are very poor. That's why we've got very shoddy meetings that are run in our schools in the name of weekend challenges and pastoral programs and other things. I love one lady, now is a deputy, one of the schools in Malindi. This lady, my friend, you cannot escape her. She will call you and tell you, I want you in my school in 2 weeks' time. A week later, she remind the pastor, 1 week to go, remember you're coming to my school. 3 days before the day, she calls the pastor, remind you, 3 days to go, you come to my school. A day before, pastor, kumbuka ni kesho. That same day of the meeting, she calls in the morning, pastor, 8 hours to go, kumbuka. Excellent communicator. I have never been able to dodge any of her meetings. She's called Mrs. Nsiyoki. Powerful lady. Excellent communicator. Atakumbusha kakota wana haya kutokwenda hiyo mkutano. And I think that is good of patrons. It's important. So, some of us, our meetings just went poor because in the first place, wewe ulikaa na CEO officials, na udosi wako wote kama patron. Mukapanga watu call timely calendar, si ndio? 27th of June, tuweke Pastor Wamunga. 3rd of July, so and so. Kalenda ikajaa, ukapelekea principal, ikaandikwa forwarded, rubber stamp ya shule, ilipigwa kaiona, ukapokea. Approved. All ministers approved. Alafu sasa, mtu wa kuhubiri 27th of June unamwamkia 25th usiku. Tena amelala. Pole pastor. Ilikuwa nikupigie pole kwa kuamsha. Sasa pastor alikuwa anasema hivi, wajua wewe ndio mhubiri kesho kutwa. Surely, let me ask you, kwani kuhubiri ni sawa na kuzoa takataka? Because kuzoa taka inahitaji maombi, ni kuamka tu zoa haya, ndani ya pipa imeenda. And much as you may laugh, patrons, these are things you do in your schools. I have gone through that experience. It's just that I love God and I love students. So I ended up honoring even invitation that came to me, only 3 hours to go. But to be honest, it is being disorganized. And I wish you knew how much you are shaming Jesus by working in a disorderly manner. So let us send the invitations in proper time. Let us mobilize prayer in a proper way. Let us keep updating those who invite in good time so that no meeting runs without a speaker who was invited. Now the third aspect is the issue of misunderstanding the calling. I know our schools have got systems whereby they will even be able to, give you some transport allowance, some lunch, if you go for an activity. Though I know CU patrons are the most ignored in our schools. Ukienda kuomba pesa, unaambiwa hakuna kitu kwa CU kiti. Huwa wanakula chenga, si ndio? Most principals will dodge. I know a drama teacher akienda nje hapa na night out allowance hapa na kitu kingine. Lakini ikifika CU, unaambiwa hakuna kitu kwa CU kiti huko. Siku hamna ile sadaka mnaekanga kila Sunday. Chukua hapo tu, will sort. Na ukisharudi hata kusort. Hiyo story imeisha. Now, with this we are saying, even if they do not pay you, please understand, this is not a profession. This is a pure calling from God in His kingdom to serve. And whether I receive anything from the school or I don't receive, it doesn't bother my head so much. I will be happier knowing that I was able to do something. Well, I know some of you, you may go through a painful experience. At times you go to a school, you preach, you finish, and you don't even have your fare back, and maybe even the fare you used to go there, actually you borrowed. I recall my brother's experience one time, just last year. I was on my way to Tete University to do a weekend. I normally run in that university. I normally run what I call a relationship conference, and I do it for a Friday night through Sunday. Normally called relationship conference in the university every year. So one day I was in the bus on my way to Boy. My brother calls me, very excited. Bro, kwambie kitu. Bwana amefungua mlango bwana. Naenda prison. Officers wote leo wako pale wakubwa wote na hubiria. Mwambie God bless you. Sikia nani pia Mungu ameanza kunyanyua kama wewe. Mwambie sawa, umeinuliwa. Shukuru. So I think in his mind he had something expected. Labda ibada ikisha. Of course kuna ile bahasha ya mtumishi. Anasema all the who's in Nyanza prison officers wote waligather Kibos prison. Naye nakawa ni speaker. Akasema lichemsha injili vizuri sana. Sasa alipomaliza akangojea kule kutuzwa sasa. Sasa hapo one officer akamwambia kijana mdogo, hawajua wewe ndio wewe ni nyumbani, njoo. Akamwita. Unajua we really can't pay you. Ni kasoda tu kamaziwa tu kakunywa. So the guy gives him literally 200 shillings. Now, even from where he lives to that place, hiyo fare ni 250. Anasema alisikia ni kama mwagi wa barafu. So mimi sina habari, mimi nimetoka Tete University. Now the difference between us, the two of us is this. Yeye ako na 200, mimi niko na almost 16,000 in my pocket. So I asked him, bro, ilikuwaje au siniulize? Mbona umekuwa mkali? Wale jamaa wamenichezea. Have you ever gone to a school to preach alafu usaya kutoka hujui kitakuwaje? Ushawahi kupitia hiyo hali? Tulikuwa na kupitia, usidanganye kwani malaika. Sisi ingine inakuwa challenging. And you begin to make a call to your wife, akutumia na M-Pesa maana kwa umekuwa. These things happen. I recall I went to a school with brother Sifa. He's not here. He will hear this story. we went to a school, na baada ya kupreach, mimi nikabaki na pato na kini sort out my fare. So coming back kwa stage mahali, I find Sifa is stranded. Muza ndugu, bwana mjaenda? Pastor naomba tuongee. Mimi kimeumana hapa fare tuna. Sasa unajua inabidi niende kwa ile bahasha yangu ya boyfriend. So my love friend kutoka shule ilisha kwa stage yako kufika nyumbani. So my wife comes very happy. Dad, ulihudumiwa? Ngoja ameka budget yake, mwambie hakuna kitu. Mimi nakuamka. Okay. Now, I'm saying this thing so that you don't get demoralized from going to preach even when you are not treated the way you would expect. And we are not just discussing the issue of probably financial encouragement. Sometimes you may go to a place to minister and the setting is just extremely uncomfortable. God forgive me, one day I spoke a very plain lie. God forgive what I did. I went to a place to preach. I was the main speaker. They even asked me to send my photos to be on the posters. Carried a team of 11 brothers from Mombasa, powerful mission, 6 days. And on arrival, the host asked, who is the main speaker? I raised my hand. So I was separated from all others. I was given a special room. Wale wenzangu wote 11 walikuwa jambo wanalala chini. Me, because I'm the man of the moment, the man of God, on promotion, I was given a bed to sleep on. Hii kitanda ni watoto wake, bedroom yao. Kitanda ile anasema tukutane katikati. Unajua zile kitanda za kukutana katikati. You know those beds, we meet at the center. Sawa eh? So nikalala hapo as the guest speaker. Tapua tanda, the rest kumbuka ni wapi? Jambi chini. Ukiamka umechorwa namba 11 kwa uso. Hiyo unajua. Sasa usiku lala, to be honest. Niliumwa na kunguni. Sijawahi kusahau. So in the morning when I spoke a lie to the host, kaambia mtumishi wa Mungu, nimeandalia kwa ajili ya roho ya umoja na wenzangu. Lale na wao mahali wao. Kwa hiyo wengine kunguni wanatesa kunguni. Kanaambia ndio. Hiyo ni hekima kubwa sana. Na kwa ajili ya umoja takuruhusu lale na wenzako. Lakini mimi natoroka nini? Kunguni. Lakini injili nikahubiri nikamali, and I never mentioned the bed bugs to the host. So my question to you as a patron, very simple, is this. Suppose you go to a school and it wasn't the way you really wanted and you were hosted. And I went to another town, not a staki in man, and I respect some of our towns. Ile ilikuwa worse because zile bathroom hazina milango, nafungiwa kaleso. Hiyo ndio nini? Mlango. Wakati niko ndani naoga na masabuni kwenye uso na niko uchi, kuku akajimwaya huko ndani. Sasa ujifukuze kuku ama ufanyeje? Sabuni kwenye macho, na ukumbuke wewe umekuja na original batsuit. Utatoka na huyo kuku. And you go back to your town, they ask, how was the mission? Good. Ini kuku ueleze, maana tuje mambo ya kuku. Unaweza kunyamua hata mission as from going. Are we together? So, I'm here to speak to you as patrons, because I know sometimes we also don't honor invitations based on probably the kind of treatment that we got wherever we went. I want us to understand that we are on a mission to deliver God's word regardless of the situations that we find on the ground. Sometimes we can be extremely comfortable. Sometimes we are not comfortable. But remember, you carry a word. Remember, you are a messenger. So when you understand what your calling really is as a patron, there are some things you will downplay. There are some things you will ignore, however bad they may have been to you, just for the purpose of communicating the gospel message that God has given you, to reach those people. Now, those are just a few mistakes that we have observed that patrons have ended up committing. The other thing I also want to blame patrons for, and we are not here really to crucify anybody. We want to make this correction so that when we go back to our CUs, we handle the CUs in a manner that is deserving even before God. Now, the other thing that I've seen also, which has been a problem that patrons, have, or mistakes that are committed along the way, even as we take care of these boys and girls in our schools, has to do with the protocols that we have while we manage events or meetings in our schools. I don't know, but some of us, we have trusted our visitors too much and left them so free, and some funny things happen. Is it true? Are we together? I want to beg you as a patron that the moment you invite a speaker to your school is in your hands, and you take care. Don't just watch over the boys and girls. Watch over your guest until he is out. And I think for this, I will congratulate a lot our brothers at that university. I've preached in about 8 universities in this country. But JKUAT Taita, I've got a very nice protocol. When a preacher gets in wakona yeye, and when a preacher is through, watamuondosha na wamwache ameingia ndani ya gari aende zake. Ndiyo wanamalizana. I went to Maseno University to preach. I was disgusted. It's like umetoka pale kwa pulpit, they are done with you. Man of God, God bless you. I have a paper tomorrow and I will study. Officials. So nilipotoka towards the gate of Maseno University, it was a Friday night meeting where I was doing a talk in the university about wanafunzi kama 800 wali attend that night. And coming out, I see very terrible things that go on in the night. And so the patron, Dr. Lorraine, tumesimama naye, the taxi man who was to take me to the hotel, delayed his arrival. Huo muda wa kungojea, niliona vituko sana. Watu wanashikana, mambo ya machafu sana. And I said, I thank God I'm a strong preacher, I've got character, I'm safe. But I wonder if maybe it caught another. Sijui ingeenda vipi. Reverend Stephen Mutua once talked to us in Grace Hour when we were organizing the Bonke Crusade in 96 here at the stadium. I will never forget what Reverend Mutua said at Grace Hour that year, 96. He said he and Bonke went to South Africa to preach. And he decided he would book a different hotel, put Bonke a different hotel, and it was like that. So at night, poor protocol. Now yet he had the pastors in the town who knew the hotel, who could have helped him to know some details of that hotel. So at about 10 in the night, Mutua, your room Reverend Mutua Steve, gets a phone call. Hello, am I talking to Reverend? Whoever is calling is the reception manager. Sema, yes, speaking. Will you mind us giving you someone to keep you warm tonight? What? Reverend, calm down. I'm saying, will you mind us giving you someone to keep you warm tonight? And I said, my bank simu akakimbia downstairs. What are you saying? I'm a man of God. I'm married. Huh? What are you telling me? He said, Reverend, calm down, calm down, calm down. Bishop so-and-so was here, gave him this guy. He enjoyed so much, he paid $200. So-and-so. Now, that may sound funny to you, but the question is, sometimes in your own schools, is there a good protocol that protects even those who minister, that they can go out with good testimony? Our culture has been, okay, brother, natoka kidogo, feel like home, pia feel like Christ. Okay, brother, alafu natoka. Na huyo mtu tabia zake hujui. Are we together? Please, I just want to give a word of caution. You are in charge in that school. You are accountable to God. Can you put up some protocols that help to maintain the good image of the CU, a good testimony for you as a patron, a good testimony even for the ministers who come in? We tend to be so reckless. Are we together? You know, having grown in this ministry, there are things I've learned a lot here. There was a speaker who came to our church about 93 doing revivals. Very powerful preacher. I never forget this preacher. And at some point, kulikuwa na some crafty church members here who wanted to see the man of God waongee. This man of God was very wise. When the requests were brought, alikuwa amekuwa na Bishop Life hotel mahali. When requests came, someone akasema, before I preach, I wish to announce this. Well, some of you in this church have indicated that you want to see me. I want to say that that is very possible, but you can do so through your pastor. Nobody went. Alisemaje? I want to say that that is possible, but you can do so through your good protocols. Am I communicating? Yes. So I beg you, haya makosa tusiyafanye as patrons. Some things can happen so bad, and it can be the beginning of the persecution of the CU by the school admin, just because you as a patron were reckless in the way you handle things. Now, there are several other things. I don't have time, but I want to jump to the second part of my talk and look at your role as a patron. I may not discuss your role in the way KCF has laid it down, though I honor KCF a lot. But I want to look at your role as a patron in the biblical sense, because what makes you sometimes to be unserious is merely the fact that you are called a patron. But I want you to understand that you are a patron as a mere title given to you by the CU or KCF, but in the sight of God, there are no patrons. You are a shepherd. You are a shepherd. So your role is found in 1 Peter 5, and it says, be good shepherds of the flock of God, for which he has made you overseers. Are we together? Proverbs 27 verse 23. The Bible says, what does it say? It says, be thou diligent to know the state of your flocks, and look well to your hearts. Be thou diligent to do what? To know the state of your flock, and look well to your hearts. Two things are put on your shoulders there. Number one, he says, be diligent to know them spiritually. Know their status because you are their shepherd. Number two, it says, and take good care of them. So, as a patron, you are the pastor of that flock. You are the shepherd. Take yourself like a shepherd. You are the pastor. That's your number one role in the sight of God. God will hold you to account for the souls he has placed into your hands. I hated the CU in my school for the first time in Western Kenya. We were assigned a patron, not because he had a calling, Moses, but because he was the CRE teacher. You know, naturally, some funny schools, naturally, when you teach CRE, you become automatic CU. That is a bonus bonga point. You teach CRE, you stand a high chance of being the CU patron. Si ni kweli? Sasa sikia huu tulipewa, nilishangaa sana. We are in a Catholic school, he is our patron wa CU, and we have an event called a weekend challenge. Tuliruhusiwa na shule, na tukamfuata huyu mwalimu wetu wa CRE, we patron. I was embarrassed. Ameshika fegi anavuta. Yes, boys, how can I help you? Yeah, so you just go on. If anything you need me, you just call me around, yeah, boys. Yeah. Imagine, serious. Anashika fegi, what the patron? Well, he may smoke, others drink. And they are patrons. Sasa, you are a shepherd. The same way you see your pastor in the church take care of the flock. The CU is the church under your care in that school. How good are you as a shepherd? The moment you understand this, let me tell you, one of the things that good pastors will do, a pastor is supposed to be a powerful protector of his flock against false doctrine. That's why serious men of God like our bishop will tell us when I was in the School of Ministry in 97 class, and as we were living that year, and he told us, he said, if there is anything the pastor must protect more than anything else, it is the pulpit. Don't allow rogue men, women of God to enter there, because it can take you 15 years to build a church and only one sermon to destroy it. A good shepherd is careful. Don't just invite in your school because you hear the name is popular. You are a shepherd. And every good parent I know, you are very careful what is given to your children, isn't it? And again, a good father that I know, or a good mother, they don't allow their kids to go eating everywhere. No. Do you know you can look at some schools and say, wanangu wa CU, hiyo meeting ya shule fulani hiyo hamwili. Why? Kuna mizaa mingi. Kuna makosa kwa kataza. You're the shepherd. How can I lay a foundation so strong for my CU and then send my boys and the girls among jokers? I can't. Why? I'm the shepherd. God will hold me to account. I don't just go so that I am seen, I'm cooperating. I am careful where my children go to be fed. Why? I don't want to mess the good foundations laid in their lives. There's a mistake we make in this, and I will clarify. I have seen this. I used to ask God, how come we organize events and we find a very funny bunch of boys and girls in the congregation? I realized because what you patrons do is, anybody who can pay money for lunch and transport is in the list. Kama namdanganya mniambie amen. Wengi wenu patrons. So long as somebody can carry that money, 50 bob ya lunch, kwa hiyo rally shule fulani, na kwa na fare to and fro. List inachorwa, inapelekewa principal, inakuwa cleared by deputy, wanaenda. So we end up having a bunch of very unserious people coming to our meetings. It happened in my school, I'm about my Malindi High School. They allowed all people to come in. So we're doing a rally in that school, and that day I was the one speaking in the joint rally, Malindi High School. And I said something will go wrong. So nikasema, all the Malindi High School boys remain. Musitoke. Then I want the schools kwanza zinaanza kutoka. Kumbe some boys wakaniendea kando, they followed another school ambao wapendi, wakapigana mageti, and they threw stones, and a boy was injured. So, before the police could handle the case, as a board member, I told the principal, let us call the principal of that school kwanza, alafu atuitie, patron tujue, these members who came for this event, were they serious CU members or they made it because they paid money? Nikagundua, over 60% who came, our part was CU. They were under mission because they had the money to pay walichukuliwa. I want to beg you, Pastor. I'm not saying we lock out sinners from meetings. No, get me right. But I'm saying sometimes and all the time, it is good because you are the shepherd. You should, internally in the CU, be careful to gauge those who come to speak to your children. And if they must go out, please be careful where they're going to be fed. I'm just begging you as one of you. Because we send our kids to events, they come back, they are worse than they were. And we begin another revival series to bring them back. So these are things that happen. So understand as a patron, you are a shepherd. And therefore, nimesema good shepherd, they protect their members from false doctrine. They are careful with many things because they are shepherds. Number two, a good patron is a disciple. Let me tell you, you will not remain a patron forever. Someday you may be transferred. Someday you may quit voluntarily. Someday you may want to relocate on other grounds. And a successful ministry is a ministry that is based on discipleship. From the day you are made to become a CU patron, from that day, identify a colleague you will bring close and disciple to help you. Some of us patrons, we want to die with a job. You know, I always teach this principle. It is better to put 1,000 people to work than to do the work of 1,000. Yes. you tire yourself, you suffer burnout because there are people who could have helped you in the first place, you never discipled. So be a discipler. Disciple the students, disciple even fellow teachers who are there. You know, I discovered that in so many schools, we have got so many born-again teachers, but they never identify with the CU. So one day in our school, when I was the CU vice chairman, I just called a meeting. I said, guys, kuna madam tumsikia pato madam Washira, na nasikia kanisani kwao, yeye ni assistant pastor. Na hata CU akanyagi. So tukasema kila mwanafunzi wa CU, enda uchunguze kila mwalimu. We discovered that we had 9 teachers in our school, born again, and they never come to the CU. So tukapanga Fridays in the CU, we used to have meetings. Lunch hour meeting. So what we did tukasema, we assigned officials. Wewe mwende Mr. Mkala, wewe ende Madam Washira, wewe Fatabaga Nevin, tukaraidi staff. Madam, good afternoon, good afternoon. Madam, lakini mimi nasikia wewe ni mwokovu tena nikiozwa. Nani nikwambia hiyo? Madam anajulikana hata kanisa lako. Hey, you boys are not good. Tunasema madam, vile mnafanya kule kanisani kwenu, tunataka uje CU. Okay, you see boys and busy. No. Kwambia madam, you will never have time. You create time. So, tukawashika. We were lucky. We netted in 3 teachers out of the 9. Asa wale wengine tukasema, tukagundua kwamba the Bible says that where your treasure is, there shall your heart also be. Sasa wale ambao kwa wanakwepa simu na ni mwalimu, tukaweka policy, tukamwambia mwalimu, kama hauji CU meeting Friday, give us 300 shillings. What? Yes. Sasa tukaanza kuwadondoa walimu pesa. You know what? Because their money was coming, they started coming. Our CU was the richest CU in the region. Our treasury had more than 20,000 shillings in the school account. And every weekend, we could send missionary students to other schools for Sunday service, and they could come back and bring testimonies. Amen. Are you discipling people? So that there is continuity in this work. Can you find some Timothy as a patron? Begin to disciple them so that this work will go on even if you happen to be away for any given reason. When I discovered this, God helped me a great deal. Sasa wewe unataka kuwa patron, wewe ndo handle transport. Wewe ndo unatayarisha ujumbe. Wewe ndo unaombea sadaka. Wewe ndo unatoa mapepo. Utakufa haraka jombe. Usaidia. Utakufa haraka. Truly speaking. What makes you do all these things? You should relax. Are we together? Yani wewe ndio upige speakers. Wewe ndio uchore barua za invitation. Wewe ndio uombe sadaka. Tena wapi utoweka wimbo ndio ubiri. Sasa wewe umetoka wapi, wewe design gani? Please make your work easier. And the way to ease your work is to do what was done on Moses by Jethro in Genesis 18, Exodus 18. Are we together? So Paul tells Timothy, 2 Timothy 2:2, and the things that thou hast heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men who shall be able to teach others also. A good patron has got to be a discipler, because someday you may be out of the CU, or someday you may be held up in something, and something has to happen where you have left. When you disciple people, there is continuity. We will never see the gaps. We will never fill the gaps. And that is what we expect of you as a patron called by God. Number 3, I will say your role as a patron also is to be a good role model to those you lead. It pains my heart that your boys and girls are fasting and you're busy eating. It troubles my heart as a patron. Your boys and girls are busy in the power room praying and you're busy reading the Standard. These are sins we commit. Let me tell you, most students, likely, they will not follow what you say, they will follow what you do. And I always believe, and I have said this, I have maintained in the more than 694 high schools I've covered in this country, I always say this, that a school is as good as its patron. And a CU is as bad as its patron. Look at how bad the CU is. That's how bad you are as a patron. Look at how prayerful the CU is. That's how prayerful you are. You call this ministry of prayer, our bishop is a man of prayer. Period. You talk about excellence, he has excellence. We just follow. And we can never follow what is not in our leader. It's not easy. Amen? So a CU is always as good as its patron, and a CU is as bad as its patron is. How will you cause them to pray powerfully when you pray nothing? It can't happen. You are telling boys and girls, our service, it starts at 8 and you arrive at 9:15. They look at you. So, ask yourself, what kind of role model are you as a pastor? I'm glad we've called you, talk to you without the others. What example are you? I met a pastor sasa hivi jina lake. Kuna mahali kuko na ugomvi, wanatukanana. Sasa yeye pia ni shabiki. Kumbavu mwenyewe, mjinga tena sana. Sasa, let me ask you, what do you expect? And you know, sometimes they just watch what we do and they keep quiet. You know, one day, my kids in the house amazed me. That is what actually pushed me to shift from a one-bedroom house to a two-bedroom house. I had a habit in my house. When I come from the bathroom, I enter the bedroom, I tell my kids to Ken, the fire. Only my wife remains. Then one day my boy asked me a very funny question. Daddy, when am I talking? Nikasema this brain umeharibika. Then one day it was very hot in the house in Watamu. So nikatoka na vijana wangu nje. All of us tumetoa mashati na pigwa na pepo. Then one of the boys asked the mother, "Mimi mbona utoi?" So he wonders why the mother atoi nguo wakati baba ametoa na vijana wametoa. Nikasema hizi akili sasa hivi. Hapa sasa one bedroom X. The point I'm saying is they're observing you. And so if you call for an event in the school and you are not there, they may never ask you for respect, but they are taking note. Anything we do, remember we are the role models. Imagine you are a patron and you stand in the assembly and they're insulting kids in the school and the CU members are watching and they get surprised. What do you expect of that CU when you go back to lead? It will be a difficult challenge to face. So much as we are given the power to lead, which is good before God, let's understand that as patrons we are called to be effective role models to those that we lead. And how you set it by prayer, by the word, your conduct, and many things, they go a long way in shaping, the CU that has been entrusted under your care. So what we must ask ourselves apart from the fact that you've been given that duty and you're the patron, we honor you for that. The question is, am I an example that can be admired, that can be followed by these young boys and young girls under my care? If you can answer to that, let me tell you, there will be tremendous things that will happen in the city. You know, I suffered in my church for some years because honestly, I would talk a lot about giving and there were no offerings coming. And I became, as a pastor, I became frustrated. And then God asked me a very simple question. Are you an example in giving yourself? So one day I went to a mission school to teach. South Coast, where I normally go to teach, a mission school there. And when I arrived, the owner of the school said, I will pay you 1,000 shillings per day of teaching. Which for me was okay. And so I taught day 1, day 2, I taught day 3, says no. I will pay you 2,000 per day. I felt better, so I'm going to earn 10K. Man, the prophet, that's very good. So come the same day at night, he calls me, he says, no, Samson, I've changed my mind. I'll not pay you anything. And now I realized he had messed my calculation because only that money had already been budgeted for once I get back home. So I'm in the 2.8 myself. When God was speaking to this man, something else. So that night Akaniambia, I'm so sad I will be leaving to fly to Belgium and the US. I will not be in your class till you finish, but I've spoken to the accountant. You'll receive your pay once you finish. He never disclosed the amount. So later on, a brother who was the administrator comes and tells me, Pastor, what have you done to this man? I asked him why. He has authorized that we write you a check of 50,000 shillings. So I received my check. And it tells me, our checks never bounce. Go and cash even now. So I walk into Barclays Bank, Ukunda, very happy. Put the check. They asked me, do we pay you in dollars or in Kenya? I said, Kenya shillings. So how do we pay you? That term confused my head. I mean, how many thousands, how many? Oh, I said, okay, give me 1,000 this month. So as I put the money in my pocket, you know that is good money if you're not used to